Hi everyone, it's Amy Allen and Steph Yates from the Butterfly Princess SEND initiative. I hope you enjoyed our SEND session with Steph last week, in which we discussed the importance of accessing the community as a disabled person and how that is so important to Steph, the significance of that and having an easy access to a social life and being able to use transport independently and to facilitate meetups and community engagement for Steph, and to also be able to have control over these choices as far as possible. So thanks to everyone that did watch the video. It was a really interesting one to do, and I really enjoyed engaging with Steph. So today we're moving on to our final part of our initial series, which is, it's a big one, and I'm really excited about it, and I know it's a really big one for Steph as well. So I'm really grateful that you're all going to tune in and listen to this. So Steph's going to provide an insight into her transition to adulthood and open up a discussion which I hope will enable individuals and families and carers who are in a very similar situation to Steph to take some of Steph's first-hand knowledge, her advice, any hints and tips that she might have, to be able to benefit their own situation. So let's get going. Hi Steph, how are you today?
Hi everyone, hi, I'm well, thank you, and I hope everyone's enjoying this series, and hope we're going to be telling you at the end it's a very special one for something that's very close to me, so we'll tell you more about that at the end.
We will do, absolutely. So let's kick off first, Steph, with talking about, in your transition to adulthood, we've identified that there were some key barriers that you faced, with the first one really being about acceptance, relationships and socializing. Yeah. So if we look at that as barrier number one, tell everyone about it and how you overcome those barriers.
Well, this thing is a really big thing for me because, like, I'm a young woman now of 28, and with regard to relationships, not just friendships, because I have got a lot of friendships, but sort of a romantic relationship. I would like to have a romantic relationship with a guy who I can trust, who's not just interested in the physical side of relationships, but also, you know, where we do nice things together, we can like build up that trust, we can like go on, do nice holidays together, nights out, weekends away and stuff like that. But it's finding the right person, and you know, being disabled, it is a bit hard, you know, to find a romantic relationship, because there's this assumption that people with disabilities, physical or learning or whatever, can't physically have a romantic relationship, you know, because they can't do certain things. But I feel that I can do them things, because relationships isn't just about the physical side, it's about, you know, connecting on other sides, so like your interests, your hobbies and your stuff. And I'm not a big fan of internet dating and all the way, that's the way the world's going now. But to me, I'd rather meet someone face to face, where I know who they are, I know what they look like and so forth. Because with the internet, you never know if they're like telling you the truth or if they're actually genuine people. So I thought of like going on like an experiment, one of these TV shows like First Dates or Married at First Sight or something, or like just some like what I'm doing now. If someone out there saw one of my videos and saw like, oh, she's the right girl for me, then maybe something could happen from there.
Absolutely. So what sort of age did you start to feel that you did, obviously, I mean, the thing is, Steph, I guess irrespective of ability or disability, individuals have the same feelings as others, and it's ensuring that you have the correct support around you to be able to recognize those feelings and ensure that it doesn't result in a lack of information or inappropriate advice, so that disabled individuals can actually enjoy a relationship with. And as you say, it's not just about the physical side of it, it's building that trust with someone that's so important, and having that companionship with someone that you can enjoy special interests and that sort of thing together. So no, I can see you on Married at First Sight. I think that would be brilliant. We'll look out for that. So have you got any advice there, Steph, that you can provide to people in a similar situation yourself? What would be your route to finding the right person?
Well, obviously, you've got to, like, you know, like they say, you've got to kiss many frogs before you find your Mr. right or your Mrs. right, depending on what you're into. But like with these groups, I think there's a lot of learning things that people can do, sort of professionals. So, like, you know, we have like these groups for like social groups with people with disabilities, which I've never I have joined in the past, but they're really not for me, because really the activities that we run sort of like go on from 6 till 8 at night, and it's like it shouldn't be like that. You should just be like any other person, you know, just because you've got a disability, you shouldn't have to be in by a certain time. You know, you're adult and you should be able to experience that sort of way. And obviously you meet someone when it's the right time for you. You know, I don't know when I'll meet someone. Might meet someone in the profession I'm in, and stuff like that, or it might be whenever, but I know I'll meet that right person eventually.
I totally believe that, Steph, as well. And I think this brings us on, you were talking about, you know, why should you have to go to a club that's from 6 till 8 to meet people? And I think that brings us quite nicely into the other barrier that you do face, which is in your transition to adulthood, was about accessing support you needed and independent living. So talk about that barrier and how you overcame that one.
So independent living, they do obviously they do have like agencies that will help you, like if you want to live independently. But to me, this is why I still live with my mum even though I'm 28, because even though I still live with my mum, I do have a lot of independence. So I have my own room, I do things on my own, and we give each other space. But like, you know, with independent living, they have like these sheltered accommodations, where that isn't really for me, because again, I would just want to live in a normal house, a normal bungalow, but as long as it was all set out for me, you know, if it were had stairs, I could have a stair lift, you know, a bathroom kitchen out, a wet room. So you don't have to actually live in sheltered housing and be with other disabled people. You could just live in your own little house that's all set out to meet your needs.
Yeah, and I think it's really great that there's different options out there, isn't there? And I guess a lot of that comes down to funding and about you having the choice and the options available. And I know sort of at these transition points that there's lots of liaison between agencies, professionals, families, and understanding the effectiveness of everyone cohesively working together can really impact on that child or young person. So that's why it's really important that everyone is understanding of your voice and what it is that you want to do as you do make that step into adulthood. So from an education perspective, Steph, was that something you considered as you did move into your adulthood years?
I mean, obviously, you know, what I've achieved throughout my education is like we discussed it in episode 2. So like I went on to study A-levels, I did travel and tourism, I've written books and stuff, did my GCSEs, but again, there was still a lot of underestimation. And you know, they have like these career advisors, I still think there's a lot of a learning curve that they need to do, because again, when I was going on that, last year of high school, year 11, sitting with GCSEs, you have career advice, and they advise you on what college course to go to and so forth for future prospects. And they advised me to go on like a skills for working life course. And I'd just like to point out that no disrespect to people on them sort of courses, because they're very severely disabled, they may be autistic or whatever, but for me, because of my intelligence and the sort of person I am, that wasn't the right course for me. So again, we've got to get past this thing of like just seeing the disability, got to like really hammer home the importance of seeing the person as an individual, not just the person with a disability.
Yeah, that is a great point there, Steph. And it's about being able to bespoke a situation to suit you, isn't it? And not just, oh, she's disabled, so she can just go and do that. It's about saying, no, this person is able to actually.
It's like
recognize that.
It's like just to add one more thing. It's like they have day centres for people who are very severely disabled, and I know it's no disrespect to anyone who's severely disabled, but these day centres have got it all wrong either, as well, because I've seen a lot of these people in day centres, like people with dementia, and they're just shoved in a room in a corner, forgotten about. And that seems as well, that is a common theme with disability, services and support only goes up to the age of 25. Once you reach 25, all that support is taken away. So instead of putting people in day centres, do something with them that like stimulates their mind, that makes their life worth living.
Yeah, there's a really important point here as well, in that I think a lot of disabled people are almost sent wherever it suits to satisfy their need and their requirement. And quite often that can be quite far away from their family and their friends, and sort of their comfortable zone. And I think there could be a lot of underestimation there as to how important it is for that disabled person to have a package that supports them locally, where they feel comfortable and where they can actually thrive. Because I think if you're thrown into a situation whereby you're with new people and people don't understand you and don't understand your needs, that's going to take such a long time for you to overcome that and start thriving. And I think that's a real shame. So I think it's about listening to the person and allowing that disabled person to have the voice to be able to say what they want to do. It's finding the strategies to enable those individuals who can't communicate as easily as we can, and enabling them to be able to have that voice of what is right for them. And particularly at that transition point of moving to adulthood, it's a scary time. So I think more can be done on that potentially. So that's really interesting, Steph. And moving on now to, what advice would you give to parents of children of disabled children and young people to ensure that they have the easiest possible transition to their next life stage?
Well, obviously, as a parent, you need to support your children. So, if they're like questioning, I read a very interesting article that one of your bloggers writes, who's a transgender male called Alfie Neal, and he writes a very insightful blogs about being autistic and being transgender. And he was saying, how he felt that he was born female, but he knew he was male, and it sort of like gave parents tips, how to approach that subject, if children are feeling, transgender, and if you're gay or lesbian or bisexual or whatever, or you want to take your relationship to the next level with your partner, and if you want to live independently, then it's that having that open, honest conversation from listening to both sides. You know, parent will listen to the child, and then child will listen to the parent, and then it's coming up with strategies that best supports both parties.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there, Steph. You're absolutely right. That blog piece from Alfie was just absolutely brilliant. And if anyone wants to review that, it's within the resources section on the Senploy website. But you are so right. It's about supporting children and communicating openly with them. And honesty is just so important. And irrespective, again, of whether, you know, you non-disabled, disabled people, everyone goes through these hormonal trauma times when you just don't feel like your body or your mind is your own. And being a parent, being able to support your children is really your number one responsibility. You don't understand what you're doing half the time, and very much learning as you go. But it's able to attempt to understand your child is just so important. So thanks for that, Steph. I think that's really good advice. And what would you say to a parent like myself that is a real fusspot, and I just keep fussing over my children constantly?
Obviously, just let them grow into their own. You know, if they want that support, they'll say, "Mum, I need your help with that," or "Dad, I need your help with that." But it's giving them the space to grow and develop into their own person. And, you know, it's like giving them their own space. And, you know, they'll come to you if they need your help. So don't force it, you know. They know you're there, but just don't, you know, wrap them up in cotton wool and just think, you know, what was I like at that age, and put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah, I think that's what scares me. I wasn't a very nice teenager, so that scares me a little bit. But thanks, Steph. That's really good advice, and I personally will be taking that on board. I think that's very key. Give them the space to grow and develop. So thank you for that. Just looking now at support workers and their role in the transition to adulthood for children, young people who do have a disability. What do support workers do to help people at that stage of their lives?
Well, obviously, talking from my experience, you know, I transitioned into an adult on my own, basically. You know, we have social workers, but, you know, there's some social workers who like just see the disability, not the actual person again. So there's this constant theme. So I think with support workers, you know, if you're considering going into a career, then you need to actually take a person-centered approach and think, oh, like, you know, it's not what I want here, it's what the young person wants. And obviously, I think there needs to be more training with regards to like social workers, OTs or whatever, because everything they do is by textbook. You know, it's a tick list. Oh, she meets this criteria, he meets that criteria, so we'll advise that, we'll send in there. But no, every person with a disability or a SEND problem is an individual, and they should be treated like an individual. So it's having an individual conversation and saying, like, cards on the table, what support do you need, and what can we do to help you with that support?
Yeah, I speak to a lot of social workers, and I think there's a lot of frustrations in the sense that they want to be able to have the freedom to bespoke packages and and equipment requirements. They want to bespoke things for the individual needs of that person, and as far as possible they will do absolutely everything to do that, but they do have constraints that they have to work within. And I suppose to an extent that is life, but they do go over and above a lot of the time to ensure that child and young person is getting what they need. But I think you're right, more training. I mean, I'm all for training constantly anyway, so I think that's a really good point. So anyone that is considering a career in special education, health and social care, how can how can you, with your words of wisdom, encourage people to just go for it and realise that working in that sector is really rewarding?
Well, I hope that we've now done 4 episodes in this series, and I hope that people have been following that, and from each week we can take something different, and you know, it'd really be a cherry on the top of the cake for me would be if someone turned around to me and said, you know, you inspired me to have a career in the send industry, and I hope by my personal story that I'm doing in a few weeks, which we'll tell you more at the end, will inspire people even more to like work in that industry and support children grow and thrive.
Yeah, thank you, Steph. They're really good words of wisdom. And I know that you're doing a lot of work with other organisations and local authorities in terms of looking at PHSE and individual sort of case studies and developing partnerships across the UK to ensure that there are people that do benefit from your own experience. And I can just see your network growing and growing. And I feel really, really proud and honoured that we've become a partnership as well. So thank you, Steph.
Yeah, that's fine.
So we're going to explore in a couple of weeks, aren't we? We're going to do a really big, deep dive into quite hard-hitting area of life, with the real objective to raise awareness of something that happened to you that potentially can learn from, and hopefully encourage more people to want to help and support those that need it. So can you just give us a really very brief insight into that stuff? Don't give too much away, because obviously we want to keep the main point for the actual session. So
well, obviously people who followed my vlogs and like things, so like the Butterfly Princess, so like you know how I've you know about the Butterfly Princess, but there was a very negative and upsetting point in my life as a child where I was the little girl in the bathroom, how I've referred to that in the past few weeks, and that is what I'm going to tell you about, what I experienced, what I went through, what somebody subjected me to, in the hope that people can fully understand how I've become what I've become today, and in the hope that if anyone else has experienced what I experienced, you know, it can encourage them to come forward and speak out, and you know, for that sort of abuse that happened to me, to never let that happen again to any other person.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting session, Steph. I might need my tissues on that one, I think. Yeah. So we'll have a look into that and into the prep required for that one, Steph, because I think we do need to be prepared, so we're giving the right message to everybody. So that will be a really interesting one. I hope everyone does tune into that, because it's so important for Steph to get this message out there. So from today's session, I really hope that everyone can see that trust is a key element in this transition to adulthood, building that trust with the people around you, and in the hope of potentially having some sort of romantic relationship with somebody as you reach your adult life, and having the choices available to you to enable you to become an adult that does thrive. Don't listen to people that underestimate you. It's proved very much so that being underestimated, she just surpasses everyone's expectations all the time. And that transition planning needs to be bespoke to the individual, and to see the person as an individual rather than just as a disabled person. And Steph's key advice to parents, I summarised here as support and communicate, have open and honest communications, and make sure they're two-way conversations. You're listening to your child and their needs. Let them grow and let them ask for support when they need it, and give them that space to grow and develop. And in my terminology, it's sort of stop fussing mum. So thank you, Steph. You are an inspiration, and it's been a real pleasure to do these sessions with you, and I'm looking forward to moving forward.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you to everyone who's, you know, taking the time on social media to tune in, and you know, going forward, you know, if there is any professionals out there who want to get involved, who work within the remit of SEND, then please get in touch.
Absolutely. And if anyone out there does want to consider a career working with children and young people who do need additional support, then please take a look at senploy.co.uk.
Thank you.